Welcome to another round of non-reference card videos. So we took your feedback from last time and decided to take all of it and do all of it. So we added more cards. We have cards from Gigabyte, Galaxy, Asus, Zotac, MSI, and EVGA, and we added a reference card for comparison against the non-reference cards, so you guys will have more context for the numbers we're showing you. So what is non-reference? That basically amounts to the manufacturer taking something about the specification, such as the amount of RAM, something about the cooler, such as adding a couple of fans, or something about the components of the PCB or the layout of the PCB and changing them, versus the NVIDIA stock design or the AMD stock design. So all these cards are 760s and we're going to show you what's up. So what are the benefits of a non-reference card? Well, they can be many. In fact, most of the non-reference cards that I have here in front of me have these benefits. So number one is the use of higher quality components. This can amount to allowing the card to last longer, such as in the case of Asus's super alloy power components or MSI's military class components. You can also see better voltage regulation, so you can get better overclocking potentially out of a non-reference card, which we have definitely observed. Another thing is by adding a non-reference cooler to a card, you not only can get better cooling, but also other features such as dust-proof fans, like what you find on the Asus DirectCU2, or propeller blade fans that are using a larger diameter, such as what you'll find on the MSI Gaming Edition card, which amounts to, well, more better cooling, basically, for that one. The last benefit of non-reference is that they can look really cool. So in the case of EVGA's GTX 760, I personally think it looks way better than the reference card, and with so many cases having side panel windows these days, that is a definite factor for my next build. And hey, let us know in the comments if that's a factor for you. Looking at all these cards, would you shop based on looks at all? First up in our roundup is the Zotac GeForce GTX 760. This one uses a reference cooler, but it isn't quite a reference card. It has a reference PCB, but it is overclocked to an 1150 boost clock versus the 1133 boost clock that you would find on a strictly reference edition GTX 760. Next up is the Asus DirectCU2, which is clocked at 1072 boost. All of these cards are using the same memory frequency. It uses their DirectCU2 cooler. It also has their super alloy power components, which gives you better longevity and better power delivery. And this is the first card to feature direct power, which is pretty much an enormous copper bridge that allows power to be transmitted not only through the traces in the PCB, but along this bridge, which amounts to lower impedance and therefore lower temperatures on the GPU itself. It has a nice compact PCB with a dual fan cooler and an 8-pin PCI Express single connector, the first time that I've seen this particular configuration. The MSI Twin Frozer Gaming GTX 760 features larger fans than the competitors here, a 1085 boost clock speed, super pipes, that is to say larger than normal heat pipes for cooling, and it has a large non-reference PCB to go with it. It is not the highest clocked card, but it is one of the only two cards in this roundup that features a unisync or a heatsink over the majority of the underside of the card, allowing things like the memory components and VRM to stay very cool under load. The EVGA GTX 760 with their all-new ACX Active Cooling Extreme Cooler has one of the highest clock speeds at 1137. It also is, in my personal opinion, the sleekest, best-looking card. And one of the things they've done a little bit differently from the other guys is they've got nice thick heat pipes on here, but they're using a bit of a deeper fan design with the actual fins of the heatsink itself spread out more over the entire length of the card than some of the other designs here. This allows the fans to have more static pressure than you might necessarily find in a GPU cooler design because they are typically limited to a 2-slot width. Tied for the highest clock speed is the Galaxy GeForce GTX 760 Galaxy clock, as well as the Gigabyte WindForce. However, these cards are quite different, so we're going to go through them separately. Galaxy has a very cool cleaning mode that allows you to easily clear the fans away and clean out the heatsink should you so desire, but they don't have dust-proof fans, so you may have to actually clean the dust, but the good news is that you can actually do it, unlike some of the other cards here today. Fully non-reference PCB with all of the memory modules sitting on the underside of the card. The interesting thing about this is they get to be active cooled by the two fans that are blowing down on them, whereas most of the other cards here have at least some memory modules on the back of the card itself. Galaxy has also implemented cooling holes in the PCB where air can pass directly through the card, and it has, in my personal opinion, one of the better looks out of the cards that we have here today. Gigabyte's WindForce cooler they were showing off at Computex this year. This is a slightly downgraded version of the WindForce cooler you'll find on a 770 or a 780, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have some of the same technologies. So it uses their triangle concept for the shape of the heatsink, which allows the air to be directed down towards the PCI Express slot, helping to cool the motherboard, as well as up away from the card, allowing air to be removed away from the card as opposed to just taken away from the GPU itself. It uses a 3-fan design compared to the 2-fan design of the other cards here today, and other than that, pretty much what you've come to expect. High quality overall design to the card because, like the Galaxy, it is the highest clock card out of everything we have here today out of the box. But you guys don't want to hear about cards all day. You wouldn't be watching this video if you wanted to be hearing about graphics cards all day. Or wait, maybe you would. Actually, yes, you would. So let's talk about graphics cards some more. Here are the specs showdown of all the graphics cards you see here today. These core clocks are boost clocks, and as I mentioned before, they all use the same memory clock of 6 gigahertz. And here we go, cooling results. So the least cool card in terms of temperatures was the Zotac card. This maxed out at what is the default GPU Boost 2 maximum temperature, which is around 80 degrees, in spite of its very modest overclock. The coolest running card was the Asus DirectCU 2, with this card being, remember, the second slowest clocked card here, but also using a very compact design, making this one optimal for something like a small form factor system. Next up is the Gigabyte WindForce. This is the largest card out of everything that we tested today, but it is also clocked the highest along with the Galaxy GC and runs second coolest, making it very, very impressive looking indeed. In the middle, we've got the MSI Twin Frozer Gaming as well as the EVGA Superclock card, and these ones look like their cooling solutions probably perform quite similarly because EVGA Superclock card was not that much behind Galaxy's GC and Gigabyte's WindForce card in terms of the clock speeds it was running at. It should be noted that all of the non-reference cards ran significantly quieter than the reference card, making them definitely great choices, and it's going to come down to shopping based on, you know, the look, the additional features that they offer, such as how long the components are rated to last, as well as which one you can find on a smoking hot deal at an NCIX near you. Thank you for checking out this episode of NCIX Tech Tips. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this from ncix.com.